Hey, greetings everyone. It's Naomi Wolf of Outspoken and Daily Clout. Outspoken is on Substack Live weekdays at noon. This is a special broadcast on Mother's Day. And I first want to really say Happy Mother's Day to all the moms and grandmas out there, really to the moms. And if I could possibly say a special Happy Mother's Day to every single mom out there or former single mom. I was a single mom for 12 years, and I want to thank my wonderful mom for this beautiful Mother's Day card. Thank you, Dr. Deborah Wolf, Mom. And it's kind of especially acknowledging all those years as a single mom. And it's saying, sorry, I have a little mascara in my eye. I see a strong and vibrant woman making a good life for herself and her family. And on Mother's Day, I hope you feel the same kind of joy in your heart that you bring your family every day. And it just made me cry. And I want to kind of pass that on virtually to all of you, especially those of you who don't have someone. Maybe your kids are little, maybe your family lives far away, but if you don't have someone to take you out today on Mother's Day and buy you flowers and tell you how wonderful you are, I'm telling you, because there's no better job, there's no more important job in the world than being a mom, and there is no harder job than being a single mom, not to disparage the non-single moms, also incredibly hard. But I think there's a special place in heaven for hardworking single moms. And I just want to really honor you on this day and keep you in my heart and, pray for you to get a coupon for a massage or whatever you need so that things are not so difficult. And thank you to my mom, the most wonderful mom in the world. So moving on, why am I doing a broadcast on Mother's Day? I'd much rather be lounging in the sun. I'm doing a broadcast because it's urgent. It's a reading of my essay, The Imaginary Casey Means. And again, I've reached out, posted on X to Dr. Casey Means, to Callie Means, her brother, and to Secretary Kennedy to invite them onto this live broadcast in case they wish to rebut my conclusions, challenge my conclusions, tell me I've misinterpreted anything at all, provide the other point of view, have a civil live debate. I always want to bring back civil open debate. But having said that, as you'll see in my essay, I'm broadcasting on Mother's Day when I'd much rather be lying on the grass in Prospect Park, looking at the sun, or at the clouds rather, not directly at the sun. I'm broadcasting because it was moms. It was the moms of Maha who got this administration elected. And I'm not being disparaging to President Trump or to the MAGA movement, but the math just wasn't there for MAGA alone to elect President Trump, as popular as he is. I'm a former political consultant. I know the math. I know the importance. No one can win the presidency without a swing vote by white suburban women in battleground states. That's math that every political consultant, Democrat, Republican, Independent, knows by heart. There's no way around it. No one has ever won the presidency in living memory without that critical swing vote of suburban white women in battleground states. So it was, I advocated strongly to RFK Jr.'s camp. I'm not going to disclose, anything else. I just publicly advocated. And also to the MAGA camp publicly I'm not advising either of them privately, join forces during the campaign because I understood this math. As much as RFK Jr. supporters love RFK Jr. and his issues, they couldn't win without MAGA. And as much as MAGA love President Trump and his issues, and they're not identical, there's some overlap, they couldn't win without the Maha moms in the battleground states. And I also recognize that the MAHA moms, because that's what MAHA is largely, moms and their loved ones, basically. This was an historic movement, right? This was something we've never seen before, honestly, since the 60s. With the rise of the grassroots anti-war movement. This was a truly organic, right? A truly organic, well-informed, well-organized, bipartisan, nonpartisan, grassroots movement of, I'm not going to say single issue voters, but maybe top 5 issue voters whose fury and motivation based on sick children, right, or trying to keep their children from not being sick, is the most powerful political motivator on earth. I am a mom. I everything I've done, I never talk about my children in public or my stepchildren, but I will just say everything I've done for the last 5 years, my whole life, but for the last 5 years, was for the kids, right? For the kids, for the stepkids, for their generation. That's why I did it. I don't care. I've had a great life. I could just go on a cruise for the rest of my life. No, we are still on the battlefield for the children and the grandchildren who are not yet born. And that's true for every dissident that I know in this movement. We're not doing it for ourselves. We're mostly older. We're in our 50s, 60s, some are in our 70s. We've had wonderful lives, but we want to give our children and grandchildren the self-determination, the health, and the freedom and the bodily autonomy that we took for granted. So nothing is going to stand in the way of these moms. I know Moms for Liberty. I know Tiffany Justice from the minute she appeared and her colleagues on the scene in 2021. I was like, this represents a huge force. No one's going to F with these women and get out alive politically. This is not a violent threat. Don't arrest me. It's a metaphor. This was something I had never seen before. And I've been saying since my first book, right? Actually, my second book, which was Political Strategy for Democrats, right? Or for the left, which I've now abandoned. I'm an independent and a Trump supporter, but it's always a little hard to say that, but it's true. And I'm glad I voted for him, but it's, the fight's not over, right? MAGA and MAHA together represent the tapping of grassroots nationalist populism, working class, lower middle class fury, which is very real, right? Also unstoppable, but not numerically big enough to get over the top. And grassroots moms, suburban white lady fury, which also is not numerical enough to get over the top. Together, they're unstoppable. All right. So what does this mean? As we all know, MAGA and MAHA got elected, miraculous, historic, and, we had something to do with it by proposing and sharing a bill to make sure that the votes weren't tampered with. I think that helped. But, we're just one voice out of many that fought incredibly hard to get the Trump administration into power and to help RFK Jr. head HHS. And our friends, some of them are now in positions of authority, like Dr. Bhattacharya, who's a stellar pick. That said, as I've written, once someone's elected, once your team is elected, that's not the time to fall in line and stop raising your voices. And again, I'm speaking as a former political consultant. No, there are no white knights. And as soon as people are elected, that's when the terrible pressure really doubles down on the principles by lobbyists and by special interests. So they need the grassroots voices to remain loud about every one of their policies or nominees to which the grassroots have objections in order to go to pharma and say, look, I can't. Look at these millions of emails I got. I can't do it, right? They need that. They don't want you to shut up. Another thing I've pointed out in my essay, How Not to Be a Patriot, is that President Trump and RFK Jr. both need you to keep speaking up about bad ideas they're floating, bad nominees, bad policies, because they're in a bubble now. And in the bubble, there's only special interests, special agendas, and yes men. No one wants to be the bearer of bad news. So, and polls are very expensive. I've explained this before, but it's always worth repeating. So it's incredibly useful for them to not veer away from their actual base, their actual support, their chance of reelection, their political capital, by hearing and seeing through emails, through phone calls, on social media, in the news, what you really think, right? So the calls, which are largely bots, I think, but even human calls to sit down and shut up, are totally counterproductive and not good for President Trump or for RFK Jr. And I'm going to say another thing, and then I'll read you my essay. Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf of Daily Clout. Have you ever wondered why your brain can feel foggy even when you're eating clean and exercising? It might not be burnout, it could be parasites. Groundbreaking research from Dr. Alan McDonald reveals a direct link between chronic parasite infections and neurological diseases such as multiple sclerosis. Parasites can cause inflammation, nerve damage, and long-term cognitive decline. More reason to do a full body cleanse at least once a year. The Wellness Company has a solution for you, ivermectin and mebendazole, the gold standard parasite solution now combined in one cleanse combo designed to eliminate harmful invaders and support your immune system naturally. Medical grade, not some trendy herbal gimmick. Fill out a quick intake form and you'll get a 3-month supply shipped straight to your door. MAHA is officially here, and the Wellness Company is making hard to get medications digitally accessible so you can live your best life. Head to dailyclout.health and use code dailyclout to save $60 off plus free shipping on all orders. Cleanse your body today. Get rid of parasites today. Thank you. And you'll see, because I put it in the essay, MAHA is largely a woman-led movement and a mom-led movement. I can't say that enough. And I know that a lot of conservatives who are my new best friends don't like gendering discussion, but I have to, because this is the demographic. This is the analysis politically. These are moms. These are women. They're moms. And they're the ones to whom RFK Jr. owes his victory. And I'm going to say President Trump owes his victory too, because neither of them would have gotten there without these furious suburban moms, furious, desperate suburban moms. So I am not okay as a mom as a MAHA voice, someone who fought very hard to elect President Trump and RFK Jr. together, right? Who advocated for it, who put my reputation on the line to support it. I am not okay with the voices, unfortunately mostly male, who are telling MAHA voices, unfortunately mostly female right now, to sit down and shut up about Casey Means and other, bad choices. But Casey Means, the nominee for Surgeon General, is at the immediate issue right now. It's not okay. It's not a good way to talk to your base, to the people who supported you. MAHA can go elsewhere. It's not a threat. I'm just saying MAHA can go elsewhere. And in the world of horse trading, which is the world of national level politics, if you're going to play ball with, which I know they have to some extent, with big pharma, big ag, big food, big defense, big war, you better play ball with the big moms, right? With Big Motherhood Inc. out there, because this political force is not going to go away. And if you don't want to win in 2028, Tiffany Justice will win in 2028, right? I'm just throwing that out there. I have no reason to believe she's running. I'm just saying this organized group has a giant amount of political clout. They remember who was there for their kids. They're keeping track, and it's not okay. It's very sexist, in my view, to once you get in and you're sitting at HHS or with the Trump administration, it's very, very, very sexist and bad politics and very immoral and unethical to say, okay, you guys have problems with the nominee for Surgeon General. We don't want to hear about it, ladies. Go home and make breakfast for for your disabled autistic child. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm being a little bit passionate here, but that's how I feel. All right, let me get right into reading my essay, and then you'll see what I am so upset about. And this is called The Imaginary Casey Means. And it's on my Substack, which is called Outspoken, and it will also be published on Daily Cloud. And again, Dr. Means, if you want to come live, my email is naomi@dailycloud.io. I'll send you a StreamYard link. If you want to comment in the chat, I'll read your comments. Tell me I'm wrong, but this is a deep dive. The subtitle is, Does the Story of the Surgeon General Nominee Really Check Out? Yes, there is a fight right now among MAHA activists. Yes, it has to do with the announcement on May 7th, 2025, that wellness influencer and best-selling author Casey Means was replacing Dr. Janette Nesheiwat as President Trump's nominee for the office of Surgeon General. Dr. Nesheiwat, it emerged, had misrepresented her medical credentials. And I link every time I make a statement of fact. A post by former vice presidential candidate Nicole Shanahan, without whose financial and strategic support for RFK Jr.'s candidacy, neither he nor President Trump would be in power right now, not insulting President Trump or MAGA, just doing the math, has been widely circulated. Shanahan found it, quote, strange that a direct assurance to her from RFK Jr. in exchange for her support for his confirmation that neither Casey nor her brother Callie Means would be brought to serve in HHS was disregarded. There is a lot of condescension, unfortunately much of it male, that followed the expressions of outrage from key MAHA voices, many of them female. The @Secretary Kennedy account on X called criticisms of Casey Means by MAHA voices, quote, absurd. This is a terrible tone in which to address the serious concerns of a base that has fought for this leader and supported him. Callie Means, for his part, Casey Means' brother, has been insulting. He used sarcasm to assign to me, as just one example of the regrettable reaction to MAHA outrage, views I do not hold. And this is a tweet, a post on X from Callie Means. And it is to me, and it says, the case against Casey, she has been so successful in everything she's done, it must be a CIA plot. Yes, Naomi, the deep state forced Americans to read her book, listen to her podcast, and buy her product. The actual answer is Casey is extraordinary, end quote. So that's Callie Means' post on X to me about his sister, Casey Means. I never said, and this is me responding, contrary to this unfortunate post, that Casey Means must be part of a CIA plot. I never said that, quote, the deep state had anything to do with her meteoric rise to national prominence. I said, and I stand by every word, that it looks to me as if both Casey Means and Callie Means have been sent to us by scarier interests than the CIA. Silicon Valley is scarier than any government agency and far more powerful. The Means siblings, I maintain, are representing Silicon Valley's interests and not our own. I said, and again, I stand by every word, that they both appear to be tasked with representing big tech's interests in the rush to exploit the gold mine that is the pristine, valuable data, especially our private medical data, that is currently held behind secure doors by the United States government. I made this point in my February 12th, 2025 essay about what I saw as Elon Musk's targeting of our data at that time. The essay was titled The Sack of Rome, and I link to it. I warned then that Musk and other Silicon Valley oligarchs were after this data and that President Trump's team did not seem to understand the grave and irrevocable risks that this mission represented. I knew then from my own experience as a tech CEO that Musk would certainly use his own AI or code, and not only our sovereign government-owned AI, on our data sets. He did 1 month later. I knew then that Musk's team would seek to merge the data sets of multiple agencies as they indeed sought to do later. Anyone who works with technologists would know that these dangerous, destructive actions would be inevitable because of the value to Musk's AI that training it on our data sets represents, and because of the value to Musk's ability to create an everything app that merging databases from multiple agencies would represent. I warned in that essay, and also on Bannon's War Room podcast, that the Trump administration was facing a catastrophic security risk via Musk seeking out email communications from national security and intelligence agencies about, quote, 5 things I did this week, end quote. I knew that Musk's goal was to create a database of those emails. Those communications, I warned, would be machine read and turned into a non-secure, non-internal database containing our nation's most important intelligence projects. I may well have been right, quote, 3 sources with, quote, knowledge of the system, end quote, reported to NBC that the responses are fed into a large language model, meaning machine reading, to determine, quote, whether someone's work is mission critical or not, period, end quote. In at least 2 cases, DOGE has either rewritten its own code into government AI, or it has hosted sensitive government funding activity on a third-party Microsoft platform. I warned on War Room about the terrible national security risk represented by the administration using any third-party platform. I was worried then about Musk's AI and about Musk having fired those US government technologists whose job would be to warn about the dangers to national and to information security from what Musk was doing. A month later, the Signal scandal broke, and our vital national security secrets, including details communicated by Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth about the timing of a military strike in Yemen, were all over a third-party digital platform, exactly as I'd warned a month before. How could the administration have been protected from these appalling security breaches? A third of the US digital service tech experts, the ones who would have understood cybersecurity breaches, had been fired via an anonymous email. 21 others resigned in a letter to the White House on February 25th, 2025, that blisteringly warned that the data of the United States government could no longer be secured. Quote, this is from the technologist's letter to the White House. Quote, DOGE's actions, firing technical experts, mishandling sensitive data, and breaking critical systems contradict their stated mission of, quote, modernizing federal technology and software to maximize governmental efficiency and productivity, end quote, the letter states. Quote, these actions are not compatible with the mission we joined the United States Digital Service to carry out, to deliver better services to the American people through technology and design. We will not use our skills as technologists to compromise government systems, jeopardize Americans' sensitive data, or dismantle critical public services, end quote, the letter stated. Quote, we will not lend our expertise to carry out or legitimize DOGE's actions, end quote. That's the letter. This is me again. The US government technologists who had been let go or who had resigned would have been the ones, ordinarily, to warn the administration that Signal, for instance, was not secure. Once the technologists were gone, it would be DOGE who should have been the ones to warn Musk's non-technical colleagues that Signal was not secure. But DOGE didn't. This brings us to Casey Means. Casey Means is a creation, in effect, of Silicon Valley for the purposes, too, I argue, of plundering our government data and of rerouting US health policy to align with the interests of big tech, especially in the booming realm of biometrics. Let me now recite the sections of the Sack of Rome that explain why data, especially biometric data, is so very valuable to Silicon Valley. Quote, the value of government data. President Trump and the MAGA team, whose leadership is almost all from the pre-internet generation, may not understand the financial value to Silicon Valley of Elon Musk having potentially breached these data already. But the broligarchs certainly do understand the value of this, a value so vast it almost cannot be described. What Musk and his engineers accessed over their weekend alone with our data, now this is an essay from February, right, is a government, of course, holding the records of the civic business of Americans, but in a digital era evaluated inside of a digital economy, it is also an unimaginably valuable gold mine. Imagine a gold mine filled with fully minted, priceless doubloons. It is not a gold mine to citizens, many of whom express their hatred and contempt for the government, including for its bureaucracies. But from the point of view of the broligarchs, it is an immeasurably valuable trove of the purest, most accurate, most pristine, least ambiguous, highest quality data. Due to privacy restrictions and government firewalls, the broligarchs have not been able to breach this treasure trove. They want it. They salivate for it. Why do they want it so much? Why are they likely popping champagne corks that one of their own got the keys to this gold mine and sauntered right in and may have unloaded, in effect, all of these priceless doubloons intact, while the guards to the gold mine were, by government contract, not present or overruled? Here is why. Silicon Valley has built and monetized, this is really important, so really focus on this. Silicon Valley has built and monetized almost everything that can live inside your computer or inside your phone. The technologists of Silicon Valley know the existing business models, and there are only so many video games and word processing or bookkeeping or software tools or home shopping networks and weight loss apps that anyone wants. The technology for everything that lives inside your computer and the business models are now well understood. The limits to growth are visible to the broligarchs. That is, the limits to growth for products that live inside your computer or phone, or that can be compiled from the world of publicly available data sets. That saturation is why they are lusting after new sites, mediums, and matrices for digitization. That saturation is why they long to build the Internet of Things and harvest those data. That is why they want to put sensors everywhere in the built or physical environment. That is why Columbia University has a data journalism scholarship at the School of Journalism, which includes teaching budding reporters about sensors. Silicon Valley also lusts after creating technology that manifests in the actual physical environment. That is why projects such as Harvard University's Keith Group, which houses Professor David Keith's evil geoengineering experiments in blocking out the sun, I wrote this before it was confirmed that Britain is blocking out the sun, are funded by Intellectual Ventures, one of Silicon Valley's key venture capital firms. As a book on the Silicon Valley investment in solar radiation management, blocking out the sun, notes, quote, Intellectual Ventures has developed a large portfolio of patents in this area. A number of other private and public entities have also filed patents in the field of geoengineering, end quote. And by the way, I realized how much Silicon Valley wants this data because for Daily Cloud, our tech company, which looks at legislation, I was seeing so many bills assigning the IP of geoengineering to Silicon Valley, the intellectual property. This is the essay again. The financial rewards of digitizing, harvesting data from new untamed fields, and thus of monetizing your sky and weather, your body and its processes, your brain and mood, your built environment, and yes, your protected government data sources, and privatizing its vast technological functionalities is why there is so much excitement from investors for colonizing these not fully digitized and not fully monetized spaces. This Wild West is why the Broligarchs wish to digitize your body, why they push wearables and digital tech inside the human body so hard. This is why there was more excitement in biotech journals than in medical journals about the mRNA technology and vaccines. You have to stay healthy and well at times like this. You know that I often have suffered from mobility issues, and now I don't. Part of my lifestyle is Native Path collagen. So Native Path's collagen formula is made with ingredients that are scientifically developed to increase bone mineral density, support tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all of these benefits? So right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it risk-free today. It is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals, which makes sure that it's pure and safe. It's flavorless. You can add it to anything. I add it to my oatmeal. You can add it to coffee or smoothies. Its formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes without clumping. And the best part is Native Path is offering amazing bundle deals, 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice. And they offer an 800 number. You can ask any question. A real person is waiting to help. You can join a private Facebook community. I love these people. Share recipes, success stories. So that's getnativepath.com/dailyclout and start your experience of transformation today, in which Silicon Valley entrepreneurs such as Mark Zuckerberg and Google owned investments, and some VCs even patents. The immense investments already made by Silicon Valley investors push policy demands for mRNA to be bought and put into everything, even as the science around mRNA platforms collapses. HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, which protects your medical data, is an angel with a flaming sword now keeping the tech bros from accessing this most valuable and most continually refreshed data sets, Americans' continually evolving personal medical records. If implants in the body, such as Elon Musk's Neuralink, or digital processes in or around your body, such as wearables, can be normalized, this, an app or device for which you give consent in the boring, no one really reads them terms of service for use of your medical data, allows entrepreneurs to bypass current HIPAA privacy protections around your medical data. That breach then represents yet another new colony in the unvanquished Wild West of data. Freshly minted national health freedom personalities, Callie and Casey Means, both own digital health companies that are based on data accumulation business models. Callie Means' company, TrueMed, sells apps for mental health tracking and for sleep tracking, as well as technologies that digitally analyze your gut microbiome. You send in biological samples. Although, since my public criticisms, he seems to have removed from his website the device he had offered that tracks your actual brain activity. When I sought to point out on X the data management aspect of his and his sister's business models, Callie Means publicly called my cautions, quote, unhinged, end quote. Casey Means, the sister in this duo, I wrote this before she was nominated for Surgeon General, is co-founder of Levels.com. That company's business model involves securing your glucose levels and food tracking data. Casey Means has had an astonishing ride through the VC funding process, especially for a female founder. Indeed, for a founder with no track record at all in building and exiting successful digital companies listed in her bio. And as a note, female founders receive less than 3% of all VC funding. Because I understood the data harvesting value proposition of the Means siblings' business models, I realized early on that their sudden self-representation as grassroots medical freedom activists was absurd. And when within weeks, President Trump announced, standing alongside Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison, a $500 billion joint venture in AI, Stargate, which would combine the forces of usually competing entities, Microsoft, OpenAI, NVIDIA, Oracle, and SoftBank, I saw another warning sign. I realized as I watched all of this unfold that while President Trump may believe that he has harnessed Silicon Valley, the real risk is that Silicon Valley has harnessed him. The goal of the Broligarchs in suddenly, out of nowhere, embracing MAGA was very clear. It was not just a predictable kowtowing to the new guy in charge, though that surely was an element. This embrace seemed mostly to me, even before I learned of Musk's time with our most precious data, what they call in VC land a data play. The Broligarchs were after the most valuable tranche of unmonetized data in the world, that of the US federal government, end quote. So that is my quote explaining why the data represented by what's in the federal government, but also what's in your body and what's in your medical records, currently protected by HIPAA, is so unbelievably valuable. And the only way to get at it is to get into a government role. Like literally, that's the only way to get it, right? All right. To me, this puts Doge, but certainly Casey Means and Kelly Means in a very different light. Okay, so now that you have refreshed your understanding of the value of our government-held data, let's look more deeply at Casey Means. And this is the part of the essay I wrote yesterday. Casey Means' main credentials are that she is an entrepreneur in the health space with a highly valued startup, and that she wrote with her brother a best-selling book, Good Energy. Let's start with her tech startup, Levels.com. I will argue that her business is an empty storefront, a misleadingly packaged void into which value has been pumped artificially by some of the most entrenched, corrupt interests in Silicon Valley. Levels.com, which Casey Means co-founded in 2019, is a company that tracks your glucose levels via a filament continuously inserted under the skin in your arm. Shortly after she co-founded it, Casey Means gave an interview announcing, quote, 12 million of seed funding from Andreessen Horowitz and angel investors, including Mark Randolph, co-founder and first CEO of Netflix, Dick Costolo, former CEO of Twitter, Michael Arrington, founder of TechCrunch, and Matt Della Vedova, NBA player on Cleveland Cavaliers, end quote. These big names came in for a founder who had never founded a company before, let alone a tech company. The funding journey for Levels.com continued to be stunning. The company raised $38 million in a Series A round in April 2022. A $10 million Series A extension was raised, including $3 million in crowdfunding. Another $7 million Series A extension was secured following the initial $38 million Series A. Levels has successfully utilized crowdfunding to raise a portion of its funding, including $5 million from its original $38 million Series A round. So to date, Levels has raised more than $55 million. Look at who came in as founders. Quote, Josh Clementi, SpaceX, Hyperloop, Sam Korkos, Cardash, YC, David Flinner, Google, and Andrew Connor, Google, founded Levels to solve the metabolic health crisis, period, end quote. So Casey Means co-founders, they're not in front giving the interviews, the Google guys, the SpaceX guy, right? Casey Means is out front giving the interviews. So Casey Means co-founders are Twitter and SpaceX and Google. If a business was, and funders, if a business was launched that told people, quote, you can stick a tiny needle in your arm and have it hooked up to the inside of your body continuously, and it will transmit your internal biometric data to your phone and thence to the Google, X, and SpaceX guys for harvesting and tracking, including geolocation tracking, and then it goes up to the cloud forever to be monetized in ways that you can't control, end quote, people would probably run. But that is the gold rush, the mother lode. They want to get inside your body. They want that living biometric data. So of course, Google and SpaceX and X and Andreessen Horowitz, the premier VC firm that has heralded the mRNA vaccine and has funded startups that use AI to get lipid nanoparticles, such as those in COVID vaccines around the body, came in to boost this innocent, idealistic young surgeon's alternative healthcare. There must be a better way startup. Andreessen Horowitz, this one, quote, this is from Andreessen Horowitz's website. When, capitals, are we going to have a COVID-19 vaccine? And how the heck are we going from what's been traditionally been up to 12 years or so of vaccine development compressed into 12 months or so? What will and what won't be compromised here? And where do new technologies like mRNA or messenger RNA vaccines come in? Question mark, end quote. Andreessen Horowitz came in indeed hard to support Casey Means' startup. Casey Means' company's valuation shot up to $313 million. Now, understand, a valuation is not someone hands you a check. It's what the company's value is said to be in the event of an acquisition. Was it because Casey Means was taking a fresh new approach to healthcare, avoiding allopathic Rockefeller medicine, as she claims, and as a huge multi-million-dollar PR campaign sustained now for many months seeks to spin the story? Or was it to get a whole new line of biometric harvesting products to be pushed by the White House and HHS, along with someone reliably to advance existing biotech VC interests and to corral medical data, but all of this repackaged with a benign Maha face in front of it? Let's drill into the value of Levels.com. It has 60,000 subscribers and has been in business for 6 years. How does a startup with 10,000 subscribers a year and no new technology get a valuation of $313 million? Doesn't it say something that the only two tech founders who are well known in the Maha movement, Nicole Shanahan and myself, are equally taken aback by Casey Means' nomination? I should add here, Steve Kirsch is also a tech founder, a successful one, and he was initially horrified by Casey Means' nomination. He's flipped within 10 hours. I respect Steve Kirsch a lot. I'm eager to know why, but I should add that to this list. Tech CEOs understand the red flag represented by a $313 million valuation for a company founded by someone with no tech experience, no successful exits, a company with few subscribers and no new technology, whose investors and founders include Google and Twitter and SpaceX and Andreessen Horowitz. This graph below from Crunchbase.com, you can see it for yourself, is Levels.com's growth over 5 years. The company had zero organic growth since shortly after it was launched in 2020. Indeed, growth was not only flat, it was declining till the Means siblings were in the news. And you can see on my Substack I'll see if I can call it up for you now. This very, very, here it is, very not encouraging chart. I'll show it to you and you see if you would invest in this company or give it a $313 million valuation. Let's find it down there. It is pretty far down, but worth waiting for. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to hold it up there. Let's see if I'm holding it up correctly. There you go. That is the chart. So the lowest point is the beginning. It actually starts in 2020. And then the green line is growth. And the growth is actually declining steadily. It bumps up when the Means siblings were in the news last year. But I will analyze this, okay? The graph below from crunchbase.com is Levels.com's growth for over 5 years. The company had zero organic growth since shortly after it was launched in 2020, and I just showed you that. Indeed, growth was not only flat, it was declining till the Means siblings were in the news. How is this going to generate a valuation of $313 million? Why would it even generate new investment? Unless the co-founder, who happens to talk to trees and whose ex-bio to this day reads committed to awe, and I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just sticking to the facts, has been put into place by big tech interests who are also funding a costly PR campaign around her so as to secure her nomination to serve as the next Surgeon General. A strong valuation can be derived from sophisticated technology. Levels.com does not have it. Levels uses HTML and WordPress in its tech stack, nothing special. And again, you can check this for yourself. All these things are public. No proprietary technology is disclosed in Crunchbase. Levels.com's last major funding round closed in August 2024, right after the Means siblings were launched as, quote, Maha heroes. And by the way, there was intensive messaging about the Means siblings over the summer of 2024, right when big tech was aligning with President Trump, which happened shortly after his assassination attempt. And this kind of peaked with Casey Means addressing Capitol Hill in October of 2024, right before the election. Now, this is where things really get interesting. Though Levels is a US-based company, almost 8 out of 10 of its users are in Mexico. Levels is expensive, quote, and this is from the Levels website. It's very hard to follow. Quote, when you first sign up for Levels, the total cost will either be $383 US, which includes the first month of continuous glucose monitors. And then in parentheses, it says with either 2 14-day or 3 10-day CGMs, end parentheses, at $184 plus the annual membership fee of $199 or $224 USD, which also includes the first month of CGMs plus $40 for the monthly membership option, period, end quote. If you can follow that, good for you. The average monthly salary in Mexico is $1,695 US, and healthcare in Mexico is free. So who are these tens of thousands of Mexican subscribers to Levels.com? Mexico, like Singapore, which is the third top location of Levels.com use, is a well-known source for bot farms. Now, please don't sue me. I'm not stating that I know that the 78% share of monthly visits to Levels.com's is from Mexican non-people, but it's a question because it's an odd use pattern, okay? Use of Levels in the US dropped 65.72% this year. I'm going to say that again. Use of Levels in the US, where the company's located, where the founder is in the news all the time, dropped 65.72% this year, even though, and then I add because, question mark in parentheses, the founder is in the news. What does Levels.com actually deliver? Let's hear from Casey Means. Quote, the little laboratory on your arm. Continuous glucose monitors, CGMs, are like a Fitbit for your diet, constantly taking measurements of glucose levels in the body through a chemical process and then sending the data directly to your smartphone. Quote, and this is Casey Means, right, shortly after her company was founded. So for people who've never seen these before, you can imagine this is the size of 2 stacked quarters, and it's stuck with an adhesive to the back of your arm. Sticking out of that sensor is a 4-millimeter probe. That's like a hair-like filament that actually goes under the skin. So that's inserted just really painlessly with an applicator, and that filament stays just under the skin. So it's not actually in the blood. It's measuring glucose from the fluid that is around. It's called interstitial fluid. So blood sugar is in the blood, but it seeps out of the bloodstream and can live also in this interstitial fluid. And that seeping out into the interstitial fluid takes about 15 minutes. So your interstitial fluid glucose is usually going to be about 15 minutes behind your blood glucose levels, sometimes quicker than that, but that's on average. Then there's actually a chemical reaction that's happening on the sensor where basically the glucose concentration, there's an enzyme called glucose oxidase, is stuck to the sensor filament, converts the glucose into a byproduct that gives off hydrogen peroxide, and then that can be measured through an electrical signal that then registers your glucose levels, and then that's transmitted to the smartphone as the data, period, end quote. So her product sticks a thing under your skin into your body fluids and turns that into a chemical that can be measured through an electrical signal that is then registered on your phone, which then goes to the cloud. And I've read the terms of service for levels.com. It's not private data. She can do what she wants with it under certain circumstances. So she can monetize it or transmit it or sell it under certain conditions. I'm not upset that Casey Means did not finish her medical residency, though that's not a good look for someone who has been proposed to bear up under the rigors of serving the American people as Surgeon General. I'm not even concerned, though I am puzzled, that she somehow managed to get her book, co-authored with her brother, published by major publisher Penguin, and given a massive PR push, though neither sibling ever wrote a book before, which is unheard of. But I am upset that the questions raised by the company's valuation and by the demographics of its usage are evident to anyone who looks for 5 minutes. And that once again, no one seems to be vetting President Trump's choices. If not everything in her company checks out, that is such a serious concern for her shareholders and thus for the American people that I hesitate to spell out what that would constitute. It's very serious. And let me just note before my concluding paragraph, in case you haven't processed it, that her technology does, in a really benign sounding way, what Silicon Valley has been lusting to do. And it won't stop there, right? They want to get under your skin. They want to turn your heart rate, your blood sugar levels, your brain impulses, which is something that her brother's company measures before they took it off the website. Every single thing your body does into data and to geolocate it, right? Meaning, wherever you go with this thing on you, it's transmitting, meaning it can be identified, right, by digital technologies. This is the dream Yuval Harari said, humans are hackable animals. This would finally hack the human body, and normalizing it and promoting sensors like this for all kinds of other body processes. And biotech journals are full of them. Put a sensor in your liver, put a sensor in your bloodstream, nanotechnology. It's not woo-woo, it's real technology that is being developed to go throughout your body and transmit data. They want you to be a walking IP address, right? everywhere your body goes. They want to track it and harvest the data. But that's not just the limit of it. This is why this is so dystopian. If they can hack your physical body in this and other ways and normalize that, let alone, create other policies that promote it or mandate it, then you get the dream that we saw from 2020 to 2025, the globalist big tech dream of they can switch you off, or they can mandate your sensor. Do you want to get groceries this week? You have to use the brainwave monitoring sensor, right? Do you want to get your insulin? Well, we'll turn it off, if you don't comply and delete what you posted on social media. They can switch you on and off in ways, as Catherine Austin Fitts says, the control grid, right? The vaccine mandates and vaccine passports were almost a crude effort to do this compared to what hacking your body and having a Surgeon General who will normalize biometric harvesting plugged right under your skin, right? Or, electrodes right to your brain, or with Neuralink right inside your brain, right? That's the dream. That's the dream, because then there will be no more free will. There'll be no more autonomy. There'll be no more privacy, right? There's no limit to the control that you can exert over human beings once you've got your sensor basically inside their skin. And I am not overstating. You won't be able to extrapolate that from what's on levels.com, but certainly pick up a biotech journal, and you'll see that they are lusting and salivating for this, right? The geolocation blackmail possibilities are endless, right? Because this is the everything app that Elon Musk is after. We see from your data that you went into this address. Well, isn't that your mistress? You're married and you live with your wife at this address. It's a filtering with this data. You can filter social media records, credit reports, medical records, your score as a voter, anything, right? And switch people off and on, or mandate more and more compliance in exchange for desperately needed healthcare. It's like an ankle bracelet, right? That's what the data can do, right? It's a super benign functionality, super benign presentation, but the implications of this kind of technology without medical privacy, right? And this totally, you waive your medical privacy in signing up for this, are endless. Literally everyone can be tracked or mandated. So I hope that that's clear. This is the dream, right? To get under the skin, all this focus on fertility. Oh, you're ovulating, right? There's your menstrual tracker. We won't let you have that baby unless you comply with this or that. Literally, control is endless. Right now, your body is sovereign, and what goes on inside your brain is sovereign. But these companies with the most benign marketing, want to be gatekeepers to what goes on inside your body and inside your brain. And it's the ultimate form of control. All right, I hope I've spelled that out clearly enough. We've got lots of people watching, even though it's Mother's Day, so thank you. And I do think this is a good Mother's Day gift, as painful as it is to listen to. Now I will wrap up this essay. I am upset, though, that the questions raised by her company's valuation and by the demographics of its usage are evident to anyone who looks for 5 minutes, and that once again, no one seems to be vetting President Trump's choices. And I read this paragraph. If not everything in her company checks out, that is such a serious concern for her shareholders and thus for the American people that I hesitate to spell out what that would constitute. And I am really upset that MAHA, which is an historic realignment that could redraw the fate of the Republican Party and the United States for a century to come, a movement led mainly by desperate, furious moms, that pushed through to power via blood, tears, and raw courage is now being told, now that is, that Silicon Valley has put forward its designated cipher, carefully produced to maximize big tech profits and likely to cart off our valuable biometrics, to sit down and to shut up and to accept a nominee whose narrative does not pass the most sophomoric level of scrutiny. And that is it for my essay. And let me see if I can call up the image that I used to illustrate this essay and show it to you. That is just very interesting body language. I mean, to me, RFK Jr. looks, well, I won't describe what this looks like to me, but it's kind of like, looks like hunters with a trophy. That's my subjective interpretation. And I respect RFK Jr. so much. And I call the essay The Imaginary Casey Means, and that's her profile photo. And I've just done a deep dive into her company, levels.com, and into the goal of big tech in getting its people into this Maha administration, not just as gatekeepers against real reform of things like the most deadly injection in living history, which hasn't been touched to this moment after 100 years in office, but to advocate for or implement other very, very, very damaging, nefarious Silicon Valley concerns that are not in our interest as Americans, as citizens, as moms and dads, let alone as health freedom activists. All right, let me see if we've got any questions or comments. And again, I really want to be very fair. This was what they call a tough analysis in the journalism biz. And I want to be sure to respond to Dr. Means, to Casey Means, to Callie Means, to RFK Jr., to his chief of staff, to the White House, to Catherine Levitt, anyone. I mean, I hope I get their attention. I'm, again, not formally advising anyone. So all I can do is, sit in my living room and tell you what I see and hope that you get this warning to the right people. But I really, really want to be fair. My platform is open invitation to Dr. Means to talk to me about this, tell me where I got it wrong, what I've misunderstood, if anything, give her side of the story. Definitely Callie Means, who's so consistently rude and disrespectful to me, I will respond as a lady and say you are very welcome to talk to me directly, raise your concerns in a civil way. We can have disagreements and be constructive. Certainly RFK Jr., whom I like to think of, my husband, I like to think of him as a friend. We like him very much. We respect him very, very, very much. We want him to succeed. I won't speak for Brian. I know he respects Secretary Kennedy. I respect him. I fought hard to get him, into this role. And I want him to make the change that he wants to make. I recognize that can only happen if Maha speaks up and holds his feet to the fire and Susie Wiles' feet to the fire, metaphorically, President Trump's feet to the fire. That's how we are good patriots and good health freedom activists. I don't see any comments. Oh yeah, there are many comments. I'm sorry. Let's see. I was looking in the wrong place. I will read them. It's been an hour, but I think people have a lot to say. Americana says, dangerous times. May God protect us all and thwart evil. And she or he adds, enough light on this darkness may help, in the least protect many. Thank you for enlightening us. And she asks, what's the name of the company? Oh, I know what she's talking about. A lot of people have mentioned this example. What was the name of the company that was started by a woman who later was found to be corrupt? It was called Theranos. It had to do with collected genetic data or lab work. Yep, Theranos. And again, I knew looking at Theranos and at Ancestry, 23andMe, that these are not meant to be companies that live. They're meant to be kind of catch and kill, catch the data and then go bankrupt, right? And then the data goes somewhere you can't identify. And by the way, China wants to be the repository for all the world's DNA by the year 2030. They've stated that, and they're creating a gigantic, DNA database. So that's a very good and important question. And by the way, with some of the solicitations on the means sites, when you send in blood or saliva, you're also sending in something from which DNA can be extracted, as I understand it. Again, I'm not saying they're processing DNA to China. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's worth asking, because DNA is as valuable, if not more so, to big tech as is biometric data of other kinds. Well said. They use AI. They can eventually just tie it to social media and harm us. Let's see. A lot of people are wondering, what is RFK Jr.'s role? Can he thwart such intrusions? Wow. Americana says, the last Surgeon General blocked me for talking about vitamin D during COVID. Yeah, that's shocking. Ancestry was purchased by BlackRock, Americana points out. Well, there you have it. Andrew Burkhart says, thank you, heart, power sign. Good morning. Happy Mother's Day, Dr. Wolf says, Sin. Oh, happy Mother's Day to all of you. I opened this with a big happy Mother's Day. Autumn Smith, always a useful source, great investigative reporter. Funny, she says, when Callie Means came to Battle Creek, Michigan to protest Kellogg, I tried to direct them to protest at the Kellogg Food Research Institute rather than Kellogg headquarters, where I told them they wouldn't get in, was full of paper pushers, didn't listen, seemed to just want a PR stunt. That's a fair observation from an eyewitness. Of course, open invitation to Callie and Casey Means to come on this show right now or Monday, whenever they want, whenever they like, to rebut or to respond to these criticisms. Stuart Watling says, if we can't protect our children, nothing else really matters. Shannon Joy says, hey, Naomi. Hey, Shannon. I thought of you when my mom sent me an image that said there's no hood like motherhood. I think I texted you that this morning. Happy Mother's Day. Let's go. Yes, girl. Yes. I know, but aren't we tired of fighting? We fought already. This was supposed to be the victory lap. Hard pass on shot says, happy Mother's Day, ladies. Let's fight this. Well, that's really interesting. Autumn Smith adds this. If the Means siblings really wanted to represent Maha, when they came to Battle Creek, they would have protested the W.K. Kellogg Foundation that works with the Bill Gates Foundation and supports mRNA and poison foods. They also could have drove 25 minutes over and protested Pfizer. I told them this when they came to protest Kellogg's Fruit Loops. Crickets. I love it. This is what citizen journalists are for. Eyes on the ground. Again, Callie and Casey Means, if Autumn Smith is misremembering, misreporting, taking anything out of context, I welcome you to correct the record, but that's an eyewitness, that's a voter. Lauren Barrett says the internet of bodies, in quotes. That's exactly right. Barry Wayne Adams very wisely says, fascism is the merging of government and corporate interests. These incidents are the initial incremental steps in removing the bright line that's supposed to maintain the separation between public and private commercial activity. 1,000%. This is what I keep beating the drum about when I talk about government protected data. I know everyone's sick of the government. I know it. I know you don't love the DMV or the Social Security Administration, but believe it or not, our government workers and our government policies in the United States compared to any other country do a very good job protecting your privacy and protecting your data, partly because of the Fourth Amendment, right? It's in our Constitution. They can't just have your stuff. In places like Haiti, I know this from my husband and his friends in the security industry. I'm not going to name names, but I'm not even going to name countries. There are countries where they will hire security people to find out where the dissidents live, where they bank, who their family members are, so that they can harm them, right? That is illegal in the United States because of privacy laws. The government can't do that. They've started to. Imagine my fear when I was in litigation with Elon Musk, active litigation with his lawyers, and I found out he had access to the Census Bureau, meaning where I live, where my family lives, and the IRS, what my income is, where my brokerage account is, all of this is terrifying. And I'm trying, and Barry Adams is right. And although it's easy to hate on the government, we really want to protect what works. And what works right now and has worked for decades is the protections in place around government data that don't get farmed out to third parties. And by the way, I want Dr. Ely to watch this video because this wonderful health freedom fighter who should himself be Surgeon General, right? So much more highly qualified. He showed what happens when NGOs, who are all tied to big tech, of course, get contracts to process our CDC data, which is not supposed to happen. They do the funny business with the data, and then the CDC gets to lie using these third-party contracts. So it's a very, very bad precedent, and AI and other third-party platforms are such a perfect vehicle to blur this line between public and private. Public meaning government held, and private meaning anything can be done with it. And Lauren Barrett says, this is the most important information to date. Thank you. Please share my Substack essay on my Substack Outspoken. It'll be published on Daily Clout tomorrow because this is all I've got. I'm being banned everywhere. I don't have, a direct line to the administration. All I've got is you guys to get this information out. So I really need your help. And she says they want everything we do, think, and are on the cloud, the ultimate control. Happy Mother's Day, says Kimberly Ash. That's so sweet. We are in very uncertain times. Many, many comments. And Lisa Brewer says, I fully support Doge, but appreciate the red flag. Fair enough. I wish you had begun with means business models. Well, I wrote about that in my earlier essay, The Sack of Rome. You can take a look. I see what you mean. You wanted the structure of that way. All right, duly noted. Is her brother a lobbyist? It's my understanding that the answer has been yes. Rose Kelleher says, sounds so evil. Thank you for highlighting this. God bless you. God bless us all. Oh, very good point. You guys are so smart. You're already there. Melissa Simeone says, then they will have great data for insurance adjustments and a potential sharp, pointy stick to enforce lifestyle. Yeah. Mine don't go there. Exactly. They'll know if you had a donut. I'm serious. And, not to mention the anorexics charter that this will open up. Autumn Smith says they are turning rights into privileges and monetizing them also. That's exactly right. I made this case in The Bodies of Others where I followed the money with lockdowns and vaccine mandates, and I showed big tech aligned in something called the COVID-19 Project and their competitors, right? But they aligned in 2020 to message all the same message about COVID and lockdowns and then vaccines, all the same message. And then it turns out that big tech was up 23% by closing down the real world. Amazon was up because people were locked inside, not able to go to the mall or to Main Street, 23%. Nintendo was up 23%. Microsoft up 23% net revenue, right? Because they put a subscription wall, a paywall on the IRL world, the real life world. And that was their test run, and they saw that it worked and they made a fortune. Why would they not continue, right? Everything we thought we could freely do, assemble, go to the movies, go to a bar, go to church. They put a mandate on and a paywall, which was the vaccine, pay with your body. It's human trafficking in my view, but that's what they did. They put a gate. And why are they trying to dim the sky? Among other reasons, they're trying to dim the sky because it competes with your screen. A beautiful sunny day with blue sky, fluffy clouds makes you not want to be on your screen all day. So there goes their business model, which is attention, right? Eyeballs, advertising, as well as just all the things you do, internet shopping when you're on your screen all day because it's uniform gray sky. We could go on and on. Sticky Wicket says, can you address Susie Wiles and her using X under guise? Well, I don't know that that's true. I don't know how Susie Wiles is or isn't using social media platforms. But I think that the means kind of rollout and PR effort, I recognize it. My first job was in PR. And PR is a lot like a political campaign also. I mean, big PR. The PR money behind the Wiles press campaign is much bigger than a White House chief of staff can provide. I mean, I think this is much bigger than the White House. I think all of big tech is funding, and it's worth looking. We should, for such an important role, and especially with one of the Means siblings formally engaged by the administration, as I understand it, we should be able to ask for those contracts for, any contracts about press rollout, press communications. Who's paying the bills? I don't think it's Susie Wiles. I think it's the investors, honestly. But we can only have that if there's an investigation. And I don't want to investigate these people. I want the administration to do the right things, right? To keep delivering on the agenda that the American people, MAHA and MAGA, voted them in on. We shouldn't be the loyal opposition at this point. I mean, I am, because I'm a journalist and I have to raise these. But honestly, we shouldn't have to demand an investigation of who's funding the press for Casey and Callie Means. We should just be able to speak up as citizens, because they work for us, right? RFK Jr., President Trump, much as we love them, they work for us, and especially for the people who fought tooth and nail to get them elected, which are the MAHA moms and all of MAGA. So if we're asking these questions, they owe us the answers. And if we say, loud and clear, and I hope on Monday you phone the White House, right? This is a bad pick. That should matter, as much or more, certainly more in my view, than any lobbyist, any Silicon Valley money, any venture capital. That's my view. And I need to stop so that I can go enjoy what's left of Mother's Day. But thank you for listening. We've had a really big audience for these broadcasts. And Melissa makes one final good point. One of our Doge techs was involved in that startup and is also connected the old interlocking directorate theme. And that is true. I don't have his name in front of me, but that is a fact. So it's the same group of buddies, basically, getting our data. Musk stepped out, Means is supposed to step in, and you can just expect to keep fighting this fight until 2028. I hope not, because, MAHA should have a bigger voice, and MAGA than anyone who's got a special interest that is not the American people's. Okay, I have to stop. Thank you for joining me, but I do want to say one thing. Something demoralizing is happening on Substack, which is like the last platform that doesn't censor me. I'm growing and growing and growing in terms of subscribers, but the paid subscribers are plummeting, and I don't know why, but maybe people just think the worst is over. And I know that times are tough for everyone, but if you can afford to be a paid subscriber for $7 a month over on Substack, I really need you to switch from free to paid. That's the only way I can keep doing this independent journalism and keep my team also paid, because these videos involve hosting and social media management and editing, a lot of other activity that is not free. And over on Daily Clout, we're doing incredibly important work, and we give you BillCam, where you can see any state or federal bill, and now legisector.com, where you can subscribe. We've just made an incredibly good deal, $11.99 a month, I believe, for access to the top trending and latest bills in your industry, one of 24 industries. It's an amazing thing if you're in real estate, accounting, if you're an elected official, if you're challenging an elected official, if you're in telecom or mortgages, finance, if you're a hedge fund manager, if you're in cannabis, agriculture, if you're an advocate for family issues, you've got to subscribe to legisector.com. But one way or another, if you don't either subscribe or donate over on Outspoken, on Substack, or on Daily Cloud, or sign up for BillCam or Legisector, I can't keep doing this. And if you value these essays and this reporting and all the other suite of tools that we give you, you have to support it because it won't exist otherwise. It's just that simple. So let's reverse that trend. If we're going to grow and grow, which is wonderful, we do need to grow with paying subscribers as well, or with donors. So thank you. Sorry to have to ask such a hardcore request on Mother's Day, but it's real, and the reporting we're doing is for the moms and for the babies above all, and for the next generation. All right, happy Mother's Day, everyone. Give your mom a giant kiss and a hug, and feed her and pamper her because she worked really hard. And again, my special love and appreciation to all those wonderful single moms out there who are slogging through. I see you. I love you. I champion you. You are wonderful, and your life should be made easier as well. All right. Take care, everyone. Happy Mother's Day. Bye-bye.